There isn't a more in-demand manager in world football than RUBEN Amorim just now, heavily linked with Liverpool last season, wanted by West Ham and impressing in Portugal with Sporting Lisbon. The 39-year-old is seen as one of the brightest and best in the business, so it is no surprise his name is being linked to both Manchester United and Manchester City, two Premier League giants who might need new managers in very different circumstances. United are seeking a replacement for Erik Ten Hag after sacking him on Monday, while the Etihad might welcome a new boss for the first time in nearly a decade if Pep Guardiola doesn't extend his contract past next summer. But it is United who will have the chance to strike first. Installing a young coach making good on his potential could provide the spark Ineos and Sir Jim Ratcliffe are looking for. Amorim is a modern manager capable of playing attractive football, developing young talent, finding untapped gold in the transfer market, and yielding results and trophies. It's a mix that makes him hard to ignore for Europe's top clubs. Tactically, he values possession, flexibility in attack, and a defensive foundation. Sporting lineup in a 3-4-3 shape with their defensive trio tasked with bringing the ball out from the back, and the attacking wing-backs playing high and aggressive press when out of possession means they win the ball back quickly, and often that offers chances on the turnover. They often attack centrally and in numbers while relying on the wing-backs to offer an alternative outlet, with numbers in the box a mainstay of their offensive strategy. There is a flexibility to adapt and amend, but the core principles remain with possession to the fore. Only Manchester City and Inter Milan averaged more than Sporting 74.9 touches per opposition tackle last season. Amorim has helped develop youngsters, and the desire and willingness to bring on the next generation will go down well in the corridors of Old Trafford. Ratcliffe wants to be the best of the best, and Amorim seems destined to rise to the top of his profession. His next move, much like United's, could define the next few years. The club's official statement confirmed what fans had already speculated. The 2-1 loss to West Ham had sealed his fate. In a season filled with struggle, the West Ham game felt like a final blow. United's 14th position in the Premier League, with only 11 points from 9 matches, painted a harsh reality. The dream of reviving United's glory days had faded, leaving behind a legacy of unfinished business and the weight of what could have been among the players. An outpouring of emotions followed the announcement. Joshua Zirkzee, the young striker. Ten Hag had signed over the summer from Bologna in a £36.5 million deal, was among the first to respond. A simple yet heartfelt message appeared on his social media, a picture of him with Ten Hag, captioned in Dutch, "Thanks for everything, coach," followed by the symbolic folded hands emoji. Zirkzee's words were few, but the sentiment was clear. Ten Hag had believed in him, had brought him into the fold, and for that, he was grateful. Coming on for Christian Eriksen in the 79th minute against West Ham would mark his last game under Ten Hag's leadership, a moment he now looked back on with quiet reflection. Joshua wasn't alone in his tribute. Captain Bruno Fernandes, the face of resilience and leadership for the club, shared his thoughts as well. "Thanks for everything, boss," he wrote. "I appreciate the trust and the moments we shared together." Known for his fierce loyalty and passion, Bruno's message reflected the respect he held for the manager who'd placed trust in him. "Even knowing the last period hasn't been great for all of us, I hope you fans can keep with you the good things the manager has done for our club." His words carried a sense of closure, recognising the challenges, but also honouring the moments that defined Ten Hag's tenure. It was a message that resonated with the fans, bridging the gap between the successes and struggles of Ten Hag's time at Old Trafford. Alejandro Garnacho, the young talent who had blossomed under Ten Hag, added his voice to the chorus. His gratitude was personal. "Thank you for everything, boss," Garnacho wrote. "I will always be grateful to you for giving me the opportunity and the confidence to play for this club." Garnacho's words carried the weight of a young player who had found his footing under Ten Hag's watchful eye. Despite the difficulties, he held on to the memories of the good times, acknowledging the role Ten Hag had played in shaping his journey. For him, it wasn't just about the matches or the points, it was about the belief Ten Hag had shown, a belief that had allowed him to grow, to become part of the United family. Rasmus Højlund, another rising star, joined his teammates in paying tribute. For Højlund, Ten Hag's departure was particularly significant. The young forward had seen in Ten Hag a mentor, someone who had offered him a platform to shine. His message was brief, but the sincerity was evident. Each tribute painted a picture of Ten Hag as more than just a manager, He was a guide, a supporter, someone who had left a mark on the players who'd shared the journey with him. This messages weren't limited to the squad alone. Behind the scenes, the coaching staff and club employees, many of whom had worked closely with Ten Hag, felt the weight of his departure. He had been a familiar presence, someone who had greeted them in the corridors, shared a smile and built relationships beyond the pitch. For them, Ten Hag's exit was a reminder of the transient nature of football, where dreams could rise and fall in a single season's dot. But for all the sorrow, there was also an air of acceptance. The fans, while divided in their opinions about Ten Hag's tactics and results, recognised the dedication he had shown. The banners, the chants, the moments of shared passion, these were memories that would remain. Erik Ten Hag had given his all, and now, as he stepped away, he left behind a legacy that was complex but undeniably significant. In the days that followed, the club's hierarchy would begin their search for a new manager, a fresh face to lead United forward. Speculation would swirl, names would be discussed, and the fans would once again hope for a brighter future. But in this moment, as the players paid their tributes and the stadium lay silent, there was a collective sense of gratitude, a farewell to a man who had dared to dream, and despite the setbacks, had fought to make that dream a reality. As Manchester United turned the page on another chapter, one thing was certain: Erik Ten Hag's impact, both the highs and the lows, would not be forgotten. Erik Ten Hag was 8 minutes into his first Manchester United press conference when he got the question that every new manager should be expecting at some point: how do you like your teams to play? In an era of managerial philosophies and stylistic dogma, every new boss comes with a style of play that they are expected to integrate at their new club. Ten Hag's Ajax had been an attacking side, throwing players forward into attack and trying to dominate territory. As he tried to explain his particular style on day one in the job, he touched on his successful Ajax side, but left the feeling that he wasn't particularly wedded to one approach over any other. Maybe you have seen Ajax. I like that, he said on May 23, 2022. But players dictating the way of play. I have the idea I will line up my best team and my players like that to get the best out of them, that they can go the maximum and they feel comfortable in their roles. It's about getting success together. The problem for Ten Hag is that we still don't really know how he wanted his team to play. After 9 league games of his third season at Manchester United, we were no closer to understanding the patterns of play or to spotting an overarching philosophy or a particular idea to build around. Ten Hag's final month in charge probably summed it up. From the extremes of the chaos at Estadio do Dragão and a 3-3 draw with Porto to the tedium of Villa Park and a goalless draw everyone wants to forget, the two performances had no common thread running through them, and that is ultimately what has done for Ten Hag. We don't know what he stood for or where he was trying to get it. That answer he gave at Old Trafford back at the very start of his reign hinted at being adaptable, at switching his style depending on the players available. But a club of United's statute want more than that. As Ten Hag explained in a separate answer that day, I have to bring something to the club. By the end, it didn't feel like he was bringing anything. That hasn't always been the case. He delivered a Carabao Cup in his first season and an FA Cup in his second. The Wembley wins against Newcastle United and Manchester City were memorable days in their own right. Thinking back to that 2-0 win against Newcastle on February 26, 2023, it really did feel like United were onto something. It was their first trophy in 6 years, 4 days after Barcelona had been beaten at Old Trafford. That remains the standout European result in Ten Hag's tenure. A week later, the same team lost 7-0 at Anfield, and you could argue they never really recovered. The success of that first season, and it was undoubtedly a success, was built on admirable pragmatism from Ten Hag. He quickly recalibrated his plans after defeats to Brighton and Brentford. He relied on an outstanding defence, influential signings in Lisandro Martinez and Casemiro and Marcus Rashford having the season of his life in front of goal. Season 2 always carried an expectation to take the script forward, and this is where things faltered. Ten Hag tried to get United to play with the dominance of his Ajax side, but that was never going to be easy to achieve in the Premier League. Injuries didn't help, but a desire to press more aggressively, get the fullbacks high up the pitch and send midfielders ahead of the ball was naive. Since the start of last season, United have shipped 2 or more goals more than 30 times and often look defensively vulnerable, with huge holes in midfield. When they do tighten up, as they did at Villa Park, they look poor going forward. Finding a balance has been impossible, maybe aside from that FA Cup final success. 10. Hag was compromised by those injuries and continued to be hampered by the absence of a left-back. There have also been transfer failings. The signings of Rasmus Højlund and Joshua Zirkzee haven't produced enough goals. Antony was an astonishing waste of money, and Casemiro's impact lasted 1 year of a 4-year contract. Too long was spent on a fruitless pursuit of Frenkie de Jong in the summer of 2022. But the biggest argument for ending Ten Hag's time at the club was the question he struggled to answer on day one. Nearly 2.5 years on, we still don't really know what kind of football he wanted to bring to Manchester United.